to Gattacking Bluetooth smart devices, introducing a new BLE Proxy tool, presented by Sławomir Jacek in South Seas GH. Before we begin, a few brief notes. Stop by the business hall located in Bayside AB during the day and for the welcome reception from 5:30 to 7 p.m. tonight. The Black Hat Arsenal is on in the Palm Foyer on level 3. Join us for the Pony Awards in Mandalay Bay BCD at 6:30 p.m. And finally, thanks for putting your phones on vibrate. It makes it easier for the rest of us to ignore the ringing while you wait for the voicemail to pick up. And with that, Sławomir.
And I'm here to challenge you to steal our car. The app is unlocking and locking the car again. Every 10 minutes, the key to the car is left inside as a sign of our confidence. So your job is to hack and gain access to the car without any physical interference. If you can somehow break protection and steal our car, it's yours to have. If you live outside of Poland, find a local partner in crime and win $2,000 instead of a car.
So, my name is Sławomir Jacek. I do live in southern Poland, so I will be a local partner in crime. We'll start with a quick recap of current BLE security status. Then we'll try to hack this car. And I will introduce the new tool, and based on several devices I have brought here, I will introduce vulnerabilities I have found in this device using this tool. Then we'll talk a few words about how can we attack encrypted Bluetooth connections, and a recap. So I suppose that you are aware that the Bluetooth low energy devices are around us, and it's a different technology than previous Bluetooth. And I will also assume that you are aware that the security of currently most common Bluetooth 4.0 devices, the pairing is not perfectly secure, but the idea is that you do the pairing only once and in secure environment, and then you are protected using long-term keys. However, I was surprised to find out that actually only 2 out of 10 devices use these security features. Why? Well, I suppose there are some vendors that are not aware or don't care, but others struggle to implement business requirements for multiple users, with multiple devices, and access sharing, cloud backup, and so on. And they just don't have access to the pairing, which is an OS level. And there are other problems with the pairing. So, in fact, the vendors leave the link layer unencrypted and do provide their own security features on higher levels where there's actually an application layer, GATT. And they mostly use AES because it's the only hardware-supported algorithm in many cases. And one of the most common schemes I have spotted was the challenge response. But every vendor implements his own mechanism, and there's no single standard. So, of course, they ensure us that the security is very high. They use 128-bit military-grade encryption. For example, they use PGP as international standard for secure personal data storage, and so on and so on. And it looks like the regular users are convinced, but we all know how cooking your own crypto, especially with limited hardware resources, may end up. So enough for the introduction. How do we hack this car? Well, I'm sure you can come up with lots of creative ideas. One of the first would be probably to use a remote relay to abuse auto unlock feature, but it's not the case in this case. We could try jamming the close lock command and leave the car open, But jamming Bluetooth is not very straightforward. We could try, for example, brute force the key, or maybe sniff it somehow. But based on mobile application analysis, we would figure out that they use 128-bit key and the challenge response scheme, and the key is not transmitted in clear text, which brings us to an idea that maybe we could do something about it if we could actively tamper this connection. But how do you man-in-the-middle radio? How do you make the Alice, the smartphone, connects to you instead the original device? Well, you could try to isolate the signal somehow, but that's not very practical and wouldn't work anyway because the waves bend on the edges. You could try to emit stronger signal, but that wouldn't help either. Maybe more signals, but that probably wouldn't help a lot and would be very difficult to manage. But let's take a look how actually the connection looks like. Because the mobile application first starts scanning for advertisements. Advertisements are simple packets which are broadcasted by the device, and they are publicly available for everyone. So once the mobile application receives the specific advertisement, it stops scanning and connects to this device. So if we would think about man-in-the-middle for such process, what could we do in order for this to be, for the mobile application to interpret, to connect to us? Well, we could try to emit the signal, the advertisement more frequently to ensure that it gets our advertisement first. And the other trick we could use is just to keep connected to the device, because while you are connected to it, it doesn't advertise. And it doesn't matter that it disconnects after 1 second, because it's still very, very efficient. And in this way, we ensure that the mobile application interprets our advertisement and then connects to our man-in-the-middle. And in many cases, we even don't need to clone the MAC address of the original device. However, it's very useful. So the new tool works basically like that. It consists of 3 modules, separate modules. One module connects to the original device, scans it for cloning, and keeps connection to the device. The other module, which can be run on the same on the same box or separately, advertises the device and acts as a device emulator to the mobile application. And they are all connected through tampering hooks. And everything is connected via WebSockets. So if you would like, you could plug in, for example, another proxy in it and tamper the JSONs, for example, in both proxy. So I put some effort to make this tool cool. It doesn't require any sophisticated hardware, just the cheapest Bluetooth for USB dongle. It's in Node.js, open source, uses WebSockets, modular design, and so on. And also features a very cool logo that I have designed myself. And I'm really proud of it. Thanks. Okay, so let's get back to hacking the car. Based on the mobile application analysis, we would know that they get the challenge, then calculate AES from the challenge and the key stored in the mobile phone. And then, to be double more secure, calculate another AES on top of that, and then send this as an authentication to the device. And then you have authenticated session, and you can send commands, for example, open log or close log. And the commands are not encrypted because you are in authenticated session. So if you could man in the middle such process, you could just forward the authentication, and once the mobile application wants to send a command, you could just discard it and maybe send another command to the device inside the authenticated session. So if we take a look again at the mobile application, we'll find out that there are interesting commands. For example, init config mode, which overrides all the keys on the device, or even a better one, which dumps all the configuration. So, of course, given we have the key, we have full control over the car. And by the way, it authenticates to the car. The background process authenticates to the car automatically, even if the auto unlock feature is off. Okay, what else could possibly go wrong? Well, the random challenge may not be quite random because some modules do not have a random number generator, and the advice is to use two digits of the serial number and multiply it by current temperature sensor indication. And if you would like to use it for cryptography, that's not a great idea because, of course, it would be vulnerable to a pre-play or replay attack. But let's take a look at another device. I brought the smart lock. It features similar authentication scheme, but this time all the commands are encrypted. The challenge looks perfectly random, and even it's not that easy to abuse the proximity feature because it's GPS enabled, and you have to leave the area and enter back in order for this to automatically open. So what could possibly go wrong in such lock? Well, let's take a look at the protocol. There is a challenge response, and we calculate the AES, the session key, using the challenge and the key stored on the device. And then we have the encrypted commands. For example, if you want to close the log, we send the mobile application sends the close log and receives the status that the log is closed. So if we could man in the middle such process, we could just intercept all the traffic and forward it, do not tamper it. And next time the user wants to close the log, we could just replay the challenge, exactly the same challenge, and the mobile application will calculate exactly the same session key. And next, when it invokes the close log command, we could just discard it and replay the recorded status that the log is closed. So in this way, we trick the mobile application that the log is closed while in fact it's not. So the thief can enter the premises. And using this tool, first it would look like that we record the session, we just forward it, and the log closes. And next, when the log is open, we just replay the same challenge. And here it is. The mobile application is tricked that it is closed, while in fact it's not. I'm sorry to offend you with a recorded session instead of live demo, but we got only 25 minutes, and I asked for a dedicated Faraday cage, and they failed to deliver. So the deal is that we can stay a little bit longer then, and if you are still interested, I can give you a live demo after the talk. And I will be more than happy to provide you all the details and live demos. Okay, but In fact, you could trick the lock even easier because you could just advertise the status that the lock is closed while it is not. Well, that would take a little bit longer for the mobile application to catch up, but this scheme is quite successful against, for example, home automation. When you advertise that the smart bulb is off, the mobile application can't turn it on, and so on. And this lock features another very nice feature because the Bluetooth module vendor leaves us with direct connection to the serial port on the device, and you can just approach it without any authentication. By default, it's unlocked and invokes some commands. For example, reset or factory reset the module. Read the internal temperature. I didn't know that it has a temperature sensor. Or you could tamper some other settings. Well, I didn't do it, but there is a big fat red warning that you could just fry the module if you would improperly use these settings. So, well, of course, the end user has a fallback to the analog key, unless he follows their slogan. Then he may have some troubles entering the premises. All right. Well, so I wrote a small script that detects such chips based on MAC address and allows you to connect directly to the AT interface. It's part of the tool. Okay. What else can we do with this tool? For example, we could cheat this device. This is an anti-thief device. Then when it's away from the mobile phone, it triggers the alarm. So I turn it off, and the alarm is triggered. And when I spoof the device, the alarm is off. Another example would be to intercept static passwords. Simple devices like, for example, like this smart finder or beacons and something like that. They implement static passwords. Here you can see this. The current password is 123456. But if we change it, for example, to 666666, then we can see the new password also. And of course, if you have the password, you can control the device. And now pay attention because we'll be hacking the mobile point of sale. I'm sorry, did my dog distract you? He distracts me all the time. That's why I had to ask him outside. So let's play it again. Okay. Well, I switched the text that is displayed on this device, and instead of enter the card, I displayed something else. I wasn't able to crack the encrypted commands with the transaction data yet, but I believe that even with the possibility to display anything on the device, I could just social engineer the seller and display the transaction is okay while it's not. And of course, I intercepted many other devices, starting from my dog trainer, various bulbs, and so on, and also this authentication token, which allowed me to authenticate into their demo application, but the vendor responded that it was improperly configured because it's demo device. So a few words about possibility to hijack the encrypted connection. Well, if we take a look at contemporary BLE-enabled Homo sapiens, which managed to pair with his smart bottle, if the pairing was by the just works, the most popular one, in many cases the attacker could also create a bond with the device if that doesn't require any physical interaction with the device. Or maybe he would, for many attacks, he just wouldn't need to do it because he wouldn't need to forward any requests to the device. And if he would advertise with a different MAC address than the device, and the mobile application does not match the MAC address, then the OS level pairing would not be necessary because the OS level pairing is based on MAC, and if you have another MAC, it's not required, so it would just work. And if the attacker would need to clone the MAC address, the pairing wouldn't work because the long-term keys wouldn't match. So the poor specimen wouldn't know what to do. In most cases, he wouldn't even have any warning. He just wouldn't be able to connect to the device. So probably sooner or later, even without calling the support, he would find out that he needs to remove the pairing and create it again. So he would create a new pairing with an attacker, but he wouldn't know that until he dies of thirst. And a similar trick we could try to make with pin-protected pairing. We also could advertise with a cloned MAC address, and the long-term keys wouldn't match, and he wouldn't be able to connect to the device. So when he would create a new pairing, we could just sniff it and then crack it with the Crackly tool by Mike Ryan. If we're talking about possible attacks, the most common attack would be denial of service. So if you would advertise, I like to pay with. 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 If you would advertise your product as a very robust, for example, a product that allows you to make payments via voice, the consequences may be very unpleasant if you don't prepare the fallback in case of denial of service. Of course, denial of service against home automation is also very unpleasant, and there are many other possible attacks. I believe you can also think of new ones. Some of them are described in the white paper. But what can we do to make it better? How can we fix the problem? Well, at least we could try to use the BLE security features. Probably some things are possible to do in the mobile OS to make it less troublesome for the vendors. And of course, if you design your own security features, take into consideration that the connection can be actively tampered. And of course, beware the excessive services, prepare for the denial of service, and much more is in the attached white paper, which you can download from a dedicated web page. There is a link to the GitHub source also. It's my first ever GitHub, sorry, not GitHub, it's my first ever Node.js project, and I'm not a developer. So expect some bugs, but I hope you will help me to improve the tool. If you have time for questions, or maybe the live demos. Questions? Yeah, multiple man-in-the-middle boxes.
Can you use the microphone, please?
Go back. Okay. This one? Okay. These slides are also online, so on this website, so you can download them. Okay. Any questions more? Okay.
Have you tried or have you discovered any particular vendors or brands that are very susceptible to this and others that are resistant to it?
I don't have so many devices. I have about, I don't know, 20 devices. And it's difficult to tell that a specific vendor is better than another. Because one vendor produces many devices and they are different. And I don't have so many devices to tell something more about it. It's difficult to collect so many devices also, but okay. Yeah.
Have you looked at the chips to know like which chips are you tracking them from TI and Cypress and lots of vendors?
Well, yes, but it's not really important what chip it's implemented. Beside the Blue Radios chip that by default has the AT command interface, this attack does not need is not bounded to a specific chip. It works against Nordic, TI, and Blue Giga, and so on.
Question.
Yeah.
So we want to know: did you win the car?
Excuse me?
Did you win the car?
No, it's not a happy end story because I designed the attack and I believe we agreed that it would work. But by that time, I didn't have a working proof of concept tool, and it was difficult to do it on a parking lot. So I decided that I will help them to improve this, but I don't need the car. Just to announce that we together repaired the thing and a happy end. But unfortunately, after the Kickstarter failure, I lost connection to them.
Hello, this is Harry's question.
Excuse me?
Oh, here.
Okay.
It says that you use high frequency to make the man-in-the-middle attack more succeeding. So is it 100% successful? So do your attack always succeed? I think that if your attacker has the same, for example, MAC address or service name or host name as the victim advertiser, the sender may not connect to your attacker, right?
I don't quite understand.
So I just want to ask: does your attack always succeed?
Not always. It's a little bit like how do you say it? He does need to have some luck because the attack is based on the fact that his advertisement has to be received by the mobile device before the original one. So in some cases, it is possible that the original device does not save the battery and advertises very quickly also. But most battery-powered devices do optimize the advertisement intervals. So my tool advertises in the fastest possible way with the minimal interval of 20 milliseconds. It's about 99% times it connects to me instead of the original device. And like I said before, I also try to connect to keep connection to the device. And while it is in connected state, it doesn't advertise at the same time. So it's I remember the word, the race condition. But in most cases, the attacker is successful.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, two questions actually. First of all, will your tool act as the initial sniffer to identify the initial chatter between the devices? And the second question would be, will the full technical details behind your slides be available online at some point?
Yes, they are already available online. So on the website gattack.io, there is a technical white paper. It's about 20 pages or something like that, with the technical details of the attacks and everything I didn't fit in the presentation. About the first question, well, the tool works in two stages. One stage is to intercept the device advertisement and its services and characteristics, and it saves them in a JSON file. And then the other part can clone the device based on the JSON file. So it doesn't require actually sniffing because the advertisements are public and the device services and characteristic scanning is just one of the first things you do when you connect to the device. Even if it requires pairing, you can always scan the services and characteristics. And
does the attack work because the devices don't validate the keys properly, much like a badly designed SSL app?
The attack works against the devices that do not implement the Bluetooth link layer security. And it's surprisingly a lot of such devices.
Okay, thank you very much.
I just had a quick question.
Yeah.
You talked about denial of service attacks being like the leading attack vector. Was that specifically on smart cars, or is that just in general? Were you just laying out like 10 or 15 different types of potential attacks?
Yeah. Well, denial of service is general because this is the simplest attack we can do with this tool, because we can clone the original device. Right. And enforce the mobile application to connect to our cloned device, and then we could just stall the further actions. Well,
I understand what a DDoS is. I understand that, but I just wanted to make sure. Were you talking specifically about cars, or just in general, like across the board, DDoS is the most? We
are talking about denial of service, not distributed denial of service. Well, we could think about distributed when we had, for example, mobile malware that would scan for every device in range. But Bluetooth is very limited in range for a few meters, so it would be difficult to make a distributed denial of service.
I see.
If that was the question. I don't know if I understood you correctly.
No, I'm just trying to clarify. When you're talking about a denial, you're talking about a denial of service attack, not a distributed. Were you specifically talking about cars?
Not only cars.
Okay, that's it.
It works against home automation also and other devices also. Okay. Is anyone interested in a live demo? Here you are. Oh. Yeah. Do we have time to make it? Okay. Okay. So, what I have here is Kali Linux in virtual machine. And it has connected Bluetooth dongle. Yeah, here it is. And it is our client, which connects to the original device. Well, we'll take this one. It's a mobile point of sale. On this Raspberry Pi, I have the second module, and I'm connected to it via SSH. This is the Bluetooth device emulator, and I use two arguments. One is the device advertisement file in JSON, and the second one is the services file. And the services file looks like this. So I have put a hook function there. So every time a mobile application wants to write to the specific characteristic, it goes through this hook function. And the hook function, I don't see the, sorry. I don't see it from here. Okay. The hook function would be just switching the text displayed. Looks like this. It's in the code on the GitHub. All right. So when I run this tool, okay, it connects to the device. I'll start the device. And it should connect in a moment. Let's start it again. Yeah, it's initialized, so I will start a mobile application. Okay. And I will try to charge. So the mobile application connects, and we have a different text displayed on it. You can confirm. I don't know if anyone else can see. It's the switched text that we switched in the hook function, because the mobile application sent buch kartę. It was in Polish, enter the card. And we switched it to the different text that is displayed on the device. So it's basically how it works. Okay, so if you have any questions, I will be happy to